Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new episode of The Untold, the show where we bring amazing people talk about their journeys, their experiences, the destination, and their path that led them here on The Untold. But first, let me introduce myself. I'm Abdullah Hindiani.
And I'm your host, Al-Athari, and today we're joined by Salem Almathkour, who's both a cinematographer and a teacher and instructor. And I think it's really amazing that he's able to both follow his passions as well as impart it and his wisdom onto the next generation.
Yeah, honestly, cinematography is such a amazing field, right? Because as someone who follows a lot of movies and reads a lot of, movies, I probably read more about movies than I actually watched movies. Cinematography as a profession and as a sector is such a very important role within the movie making industry, within the TV shows and commercials, ads. It's the brand look of the show as a whole. And also, like I said, an instructor on top of that to pass on the knowledge that you have to students, to pass on the future generations who are going to be going into these fields. It's an amazing task, amazing professions in both sides.
As someone who only watches movies, I don't know about the technical aspects so much. It'll be really interesting to hear about someone who has such a deep background in producing things and how cinematography actually works. And I am really curious as well about how he's also a teacher because, a lot of people say if you don't do, then teach, but he somehow is doing both. And I think it's always amazing to share what you know with other people.
It is amazing, and it's going to be an amazing episode. Hopefully, with that being said, we are going to take a break, ladies and gentlemen. After the break, we're going to be sit down and joined by him. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in, but most importantly, thank you, Salem Almathkour, for being our guest tonight on The Untold.
Thank you so much, Abdullah, for hosting me for today. Thank you.
It's wonderful to have you. And you're a cinematographer, is that correct?
Yes.
So before we dive in, could you maybe explain to us what cinematography is?
So basically, cinematography is the art of combining camera work and lighting work in order to control the whole visuals of any kind of production. So when we talk about a movie, the cinematographer is the main person who is in charge of getting the whole feel and look of that movie in terms of cameras, choice of lenses, in terms of lighting, and so on.
That's really cool. It seems to encompass so many different things.
Yeah. So basically all of these elements, along with the camera movement and so on, is going to control the whole visual style of the film. So in some films you would see some kind of handheld cameras where it's a bit more shaky. That's in mostly horror movies. Some movies they tend to have like very flowy camera, which is very smooth movement and so on. So it's basically that kind of vibe that the cinematographer is going to control, and all of these are being used to enhance some kind of feeling and kind of evoke some kind of emotions within audience.
Yeah, I love how you brought the example of movies, because a lot of people, attribute the look of the movie to the director. It's actually the cinematographer is the one in charge of how the movie looks based on what the director tells them. So that's why there are a lot of cinematographers in Hollywood who have a lot of name recognition alongside directors, like Roger Deakins, Greg Fraser, and so on and so that.
True.
So yeah, they do have a lot of control over how the final product looks. And I do want to ask you, how did you find yourself into such kind of field?
So before getting into that field, I just wanted to comment on that. So basically the cinematographer and the whole crew actually are there to achieve the director's final vision. Of course, the cinematographer is going to control somehow the look in a way, or the visual style that you were going for, but it is the final director's, it is at the end, the director's decision at the end of the day, which is going to happen. So basically, if the cinematographer decides I'm doing this and that, and the director does not want that kind of style, he wants a bit more messy style, let's say, then the director gets what they want. But mainly the cinematographer is there to enhance the visuals, to kind of emphasize the emotions and so on. Now, in terms of my beginning in that field, I graduated in visual communication, and I've tried several stuff in the field of visuals. I did shooting videos a lot. Therefore, I decided to go and get more experience in shooting videos. And the most kind of specific program that I've found, it was Masters in Cinematography for Film and TV. So I went to the UK. I've done a year of cinematography for film and TV. And we were required to do 3 movies within the year. So each semester you have 1 movie to shoot. Alhamdulillah, at the end of the whole program, I successfully have around 16 short movies and 1 full feature documentary.
MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. I feel like it's quite a very, I forgot what the word is, but it's the kind of masters where you had to actually do things, not just kind of study as well.
100%.
There's like
100%.
end products resulting. And I think, did that help you kind of decide to do this as more than a hobby then? Like, because not many people would kind of focus on a niche degree such as a master's in cinematography. They would maybe do other stuff and find themselves in this field maybe later on. So what made you decide to really go for this more than just being a hobby?
It was not a hobby. It's because of my background in teaching. I was a teaching assistant before going for my master's. There I was kind of deciding of becoming an instructor, which is I am right now. And then inshallah, I'm pursuing PhD in cinematography very soon. So basically it was a decision for a career choice. It was not only a hobby that I was going for. That's the main part. Then the second part is, even if it was a hobby, to get into the world of production is very hectic.
Yeah.
So you actually need to be familiar with that world and basically have the dedication and have the passion for it, basically.
Yeah, and also, you know, because I wouldn't say that cinematographers have a style, particular style, because, you know, it depends from project to project. You know, you can have different look in all of them. But if you were to have like one, you know, connecting, I would say, style between all of your work, what would that be?
I would refer back to your first point, which is not having a main style, because a lot of cinematographers are known for specific like genres, let's say, or maybe they have a specific kind of identity within visuals. But the main thing about cinematography, if it's done right, you wouldn't even notice it, which is the main thing that we try to aim for. So being unnoticed means that you delivered the emotions, and then you also achieved what you need to do as a cinematographer. So to me, I don't have a specific style. I shoot wide range of projects, from like short movies with different kind of genres, and I do shoot commercials, TV programs, TV series, and so on.
I mean, that's really cool. And I love that you're able to utilize this in so many different aspects of, I guess you could say, movies or television. It's not just like you're doing one thing all the time. That kind of, I guess, forces you to kind of expand how you see things. I'm going to go back to something you said before about what you studied and everything. I studied English literature, but I did do some subjects, like some modules in literature and cinema. And it taught you how to read a movie. And it was the first time I ever was able to see that a movie was not just a movie, if that makes sense, that there's so much that goes into it. The way the story is told, the way the shots are held, the different pans, it was a language I'd never spoken before, and it was such a beautiful thing to be able to experience and learn about. My only thing is that I'm really bad at technology, so the idea of having to shoot a movie and do stuff, because I did consider doing a master's in literature and cinema as well to be able to incorporate both worlds, because I love being able to like write and read and then kind of recreate that into something more tangible that people can also experience in an easier way. But it just wasn't for me in terms of my own capabilities, especially at the time, you know? So what made you feel that this was something that you could really bring yourself out of? Because I think a lot of people may think they want to do this, but it's easier said than done, if you know what I mean.
So basically, when we talk about literature and in terms of cinema, it's mainly the main domain of people who are in literature is basically script writing. While working on a bit more technical side, like camera work and maybe editing or even lighting and so on, is a bit tougher because it's not only mentally demanding, but also physically demanding, and it's very hectic. I can tell you by the end of the day, because you're both drained mentally and physically. So basically, it takes a lot of time and effort. But as I said earlier, if you don't have the dedication, if you don't have the passion for the profession, then it's not for you. So for me, Salem, I loved cinema. Every Monday I was in cinema with my cup of drink and like popcorn and so on. I just watch any movie that is there. So I did have that passion of creating these worlds, of being or telling, being part of telling a story to people, and how would we affect people's psychology. Like even when I have a movie that is award-winning here in Kuwait and international festivals. So basically, when I was in the cinema, specifically here in Kuwait, while people were watching the movie, I was watching people's reactions. It's amazing and fascinating how they are interacting with the movie. It made us feel like, yes, we achieved what we wanted. So whenever it's sad, people would kind of go down, and whenever it's kind of funnier on the comedic aspect, they're interacting, they're laughing and so on. When there's like a jump scare or whatever, they're just scared and so on. So this aspect of it is the actual achievement that we are kind of having. It's the impact on people's psychology and how to tell them the story with the end message.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I do get what you're saying, because the production team, mashallah, they do so much work that people aren't aware of to make this happen. Me and Abdullah are just kind of here. We have like...
We're just cruising by.
Yeah. So with that, we are going to go on a quick break, and then I hope we can talk about this some more. So stay tuned.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen, from that quick break. Now, Salem, I do want to ask you about something. I did mention Roger Deakins before because I listen to his podcast a lot, where he brings a lot of cinematographers to talk. And it seems that there are two kind of groups of cinematographers in the way they approach new work. Some of them say that we like to read the material before sitting down with the director to get a feel and then to have looks, and then we can suggest them to the director. Others are like, we like to sit with the director first and then look at the material and see the common ground. Where do you fit between those two worlds?
So basically, I do like to read the scripts beforehand. I just sit there, I imagine the whole film. Like, even one day the director was telling me about his script that he was going to write, and he was telling me the general idea. So I pre-visualized the whole movie with him. Then a few years later, because that project didn't go through, a few years later he was like, I have a movie, I want to do that. I was like, I've seen that movie before. Like I was so sure that I've seen it with my own eyes, because I pre-visualized it with him. Like I've seen the movie, I've seen the cinematography style, I've seen everything else. So basically, yes, I'm part of people who would like to read the script before going to sit with the director, because on the script we take a lot of notes, and like in here this is going to be looking like this, and in here that is going to be the visual style, the camera movement in here, maybe some kind of lenses, specialized equipment and so on here and there. So yeah, I tend to actually read the script beforehand.
Are there cinematographers who don't read the script? I feel like it's pretty vital to kind of getting the feel of the movie, you know?
Most of cinematographers do read scripts, but some people like to sit with the director first of all, get a brief idea about the story and everything else, then they jump into the script once they actually sign the contract and everything else. So before getting on the project, to me is where I decide whether I want to work on that specific project or not. Because sometimes you'd read the script and you'd feel like there are a lot of things that are missing, and this might not actually work for you. It might be great for someone else. So yeah, I do like to read the script beforehand.
Yeah, and honestly, I do want to ask you more about your approach, because I remember, I think it was Matt Damon or someone who worked with Clint Eastwood, and he said when Clint first makes the shot, you know, the director of photography or the cinematographer comes and make the shot, and then they show it to Clint, and then Clint is like, okay, I like this, let's go with this, or change that. So in your opinion, you know, once you have a shot in your mind, once you work a composition in your mind, and the director has a composition that inside you feel like it's not working? Do you feel like, oh, I can bring it up to it, or are you not that kind of person? You're not that kind of person to tell them this shot has this one wrong and this one wrong.
Well, to me, what I even teach my students to do is in pre-production, you go and like hassle the director. Like, don't leave him alone. Like, sit in there and tell him because everything needs to be in pre-production, because that is the main phase where we're kind of visualizing and creating the storyboard and so on. So basically, in that phase, you do everything that you want to suggest or you want to tell to the director, or like you want to change within the shots, even when creating the shot list and so on. But once you get to the production itself, because sometimes you are short of time, just go with the director's decision.
Yeah.
In pre-production, you can argue as much as you want. On set, you can suggest things, but do not get into the director's head to the point that they change the whole thing, because that is going to mentally drain the director, and also it might not, you might not have the vision that the director has, especially on set, because things change from pre-production to set.
Yeah.
So they know better what they are doing if they're like up to their game.
So is it important to kind of go with the flow sometimes? Because I think a lot of people have their own artistic vision and they don't want to sacrifice that. So is it difficult to kind of maybe make concessions when you really had an idea that you really liked?
I mean, you usually find a middle ground because directors, they do listen to the cinematographers. Like the relationship between the director and the cinematographer is the best or the strongest relationship on set, to the point that they call it professional marriage between the cinematographer and director. If you see a director who has worked with a certain cinematographer, you'd see them working for like few years together, especially on similar projects. So that is professional marriage. So when on set, there is usually some kind of giving and taking. Sometimes it's more like of a middle ground between you and I to find the best shot that is eventually going to be for the project itself.
Yeah, and now speaking of the project itself, a lot of people have the misconception that a movie is basically one cycle, right? It's a group of people just grouping up together. It's like, yalla khan sawi film, and that's the whole process. But like you mentioned before, the movies go through 3 cycles. There's pre-production, production, and post-production. Now, when it comes to your role as cinematographer, during all those, phases, like, can you talk us through your role during those phases and how it differs from one another?
Sure. In terms of artistic cinematography or like artistic filmmaking, it's 3 phases. It's it's pre-production, then the production itself, then the post-production. In terms of business, there's a 4th phase that everyone kind of don't focus on, which is the distribution, because after shooting, after editing, where is your work going to be viewed? So that is the 4th phase. Now, the role of cinematographer in such productions, in the pre-production, the cinematographer would first of all read the script, interpret the script as visuals, then try to kind of understand the feeling of each character, of each sentence that is being said, and understand the feelings of each scene on that specific project. Then we would sit with the director, do the whole planning in terms of lighting, mood, style, camera movements, what kind of lenses, decide on the camera itself. Like a lot of cinematographers, they do not own cinematic cameras. We would actually go and get whatever camera is suitable for that specific project. We rent it out. Yeah. I don't have a camera.
No way.
I don't have a camera. I do have a small mirrorless camera, but that is not cinematic quality, because each project has different kind of vibes, feelings, or even let's say scale of like budget wise. And also it has a different needs in terms of technical work. So maybe this camera has that feature which is not provided in this camera, so I need to bring that camera. Now, what if I don't own that camera? that is going to be a problem because we'll have to go and rent it out. So basically, we don't buy cameras. We usually rent out the cameras that are needed and suitable for that specific job. Now, that is in the pre-production, so we plan the whole thing. Next is the shoot day, or like the production phase. The production phase, basically, we start blocking with the director. So we'd go early in the day. We decide on the movement, how the actors are going to be distributed, where are they walking in from, how are they leaving the frames, and so on. What are our mediums going to be looking like? What are our close-ups are going to be looking like? Where do we want to set the lighting? And that is very crucial for cinematography because 90% of the image is the actual lighting, and then you have the camera movement, and then whatever is in front of the camera. So basically, where are we going to get our lighting from? And in that, it's a bit complicated because whether you want to hang lights or whether you want to put lights on stand, it's a different choice based on how you want to light your scene, how close up are you going to be close, and how mediums are going to be framed, and how your wide shots are going to be framed. So it's a bit challenging in that sense, especially with the movement of the actors. And that is the production phase. So basically you oversee the camera work, the lighting work, the camera movement, the lenses that are going to be on camera on specific shots. How are you going to frame your camera, your subject, sorry, and how are people going to move within the environment. Then the last phase, which is the post-production. So basically cinematographers' work usually ends with production, but there's one more phase, which is the coloring phase, where the cinematographer has to be attending. So in the coloring phase, because you've shot your image, and maybe, let's say, in one specific shot, you wanted the shot to look like something specific, but you didn't have the correct equipment. Let's say that I'm shooting Abdullah and I need a yellow light instead of a daylight, but I did not have a CTO, which is the orange gel. So basically, I would go to the post-production with the colorist and I'd be like, how about we change the color to a bit orange-ish? So we change the color temperature of that specific shot. Or maybe, how about we change the look in here because I couldn't have a fill light from this side, and so on. So basically, this is the whole production process for cinematographers.
No, it's so interesting for me to hear like how technical the background really is. Like you sit and you watch a movie, you don't think of all the stuff that goes into it.
100%.
You might think, oh yeah, like Abdullah said, like, oh, there's a camera, you shoot a movie, you bring your people, but there are so many layers to it. There's so many details, and like every person has a part to play as well.
100%.
Do you have like a favorite part in between these productions? Like, what's the best thing for you when it comes to cinematography?
I mean, being a cinematographer, the most fun part is being on set and using the camera and lights and kind of coming up with the whole visual style. But also pre-production is so much fun because you're preparing for these shoots. Now, in terms of commercials and like video clips and so on, because like yesterday we just released a new kind of national video clip.
Nice.
I was directing that, and the pre-production for that actually took us like a week, and it was very like short notice and let's go, let's jump in and so on. So it was very like interesting how we tackled it because we went from the back all the way to the beginning. So we didn't start with kind of having the song and listening to it and so on. No, we prepared the visual style, then we prepared what kind of equipment we wanted, then we heard the song, then we went to set, and like we went all the way in reverse. Now, each director and each like filmmaker have their own workflow, and we need to accommodate to the certain projects. So basically, I do enjoy all the phases, honestly, because it's so much fun watching the whole production going from just an idea in someone's head until it's live on screen where people actually get to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the magic of, I would say, this entire industry, right? You're seeing pages that make careers, that make films, that makes movies, makes a lot of different people happy and brings joy to a lot of people. Now we are running a little bit out of time, so I do want to leave you with one last question, and it goes back because we've talked on your role as cinematographer, but you're also a director. So can you just talk us about what does it mean to be a director?
So to be a director is being the main visionary person in any kind of project. A director would decide on basically everything in that, yeah, basically everything in that kind of production. But like, there's only one aspect that they don't control, which is the budget. That's with the producer. That's with the producer. But the director has to have an answer for all questions in terms of sound, music, VFX, characters, story, camera, anything that is a bit more to the technical and artistic aspect goes back to the director, and they would decide whether they want to go with that or not. Like, the musician is going to compose music according to the director's need. The cinematographer is going to shoot according to the director's need. Yeah. The sound designer is going to have the sounds designed in a certain way. The mixing is done in a certain way. Even the recorded sounds are going to be specific sounds according to the director's needs. So it's his decision at the end of the day. The main role of the director is to supervise the whole artistic workflow, then also to direct cast. Like, whenever there's someone in front of the camera, because sometimes you would see one actor or actress, they're doing really well in one movie and they're like mediocre in some other movies.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That is the director. How the director would bring that actor or actress to life, or that specific character that is being played to life. Yeah. How do they explain it to the audience? How do they explain it to the actor or actress themselves? And how do they actually interpret their emotional condition, their psychological condition? What, like, even the director even needs to know the backstory of all the characters. How were they raised? How is the family kind of setting that they've lived in? Even if that is not being shown on screen, but they need to know that, because that is going to dictate how they've became later on. So that is mainly the director role.
Feels like the director is both the mother and the father of the whole thing at the same time.
Yeah,
and I think that your role as cinematographer as well helps you, as I said, that kind of marriage between the two.
You're the nanny.
Yeah, you're the nanny. So you get to be like mother, father, nanny all in one.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool that you're able to approach things from so many different angles, and I think it really helps with your own vision to create things.
100%.
And we have run out of time, unfortunately, but it was such a pleasure to talk to you and like learn the background of how this stuff kind of works. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me today, Dajin.
No, it's honestly been a pleasure. And with that, we are going to take a quick break. And we're back from that episode. And honestly, I really enjoyed talking to him. Mashallah, he had so much knowledge. The idea of how cinematography works is not something I really understood before. So to know how it works in production, pre-production, post-production, there are so many layers to it. And honestly, it's really amazing to talk about.
It was honestly so amazing to talk about. You know, we've had so many conversations with Salem, so we have so many different conversations about all kinds of genres, all kinds of things. You know, his approach to cinematography, his style in directing, his approach, and himself as an instructor. It was a lovely conversation we've had. It was a lovely time here at the Untold.
I agree. And I think even his role as a teacher, you can tell that he's an amazing teacher to have. I think that he inspires a lot of love in his students, and he's so proud of them. And the fact that he's able to see that his work is not going unfinished, it's being produced into something that other people are also following through with and getting them to inspire to follow their dreams. It's wonderful. And I really love the message that he left us with, to always keep learning.
Right. Very well said, Lujain. With that being said, that's it from us, the team of The Untold. Until the next episode, goodbye from now.
Goodbye, and see you next time.